Welcome to this free Procreate Beginners course. During this 3-hour tutorial, you will be learning all the basics and tools from Procreate and digital illustration. If you would like to learn everything about using Procreate like a pro, head to skillademia.com and get access to the full course. Now, let's begin.
Hi there, and you are very welcome to the Procreate course, where we will learn everything about the Procreate software, as well as about the basics and types of art. This course will be great as for beginners, so and for more experienced artists, because we always learn something new, and every artist uses his own hacks to make the art process easier and with some specifics. So during this course, I will tell you about my own hacks, and I will show you how you can draw so much easier and sometimes faster with Procreate's features, such as guidelines, symmetry tool, and other amazing tools. I will tell you about everything step by step, from easier shapes to more difficult forms, and by the end of the course, you will learn how to think about the overall picture first and only then about the details. Because even the greatest artists from the past always started from the bigger and simpler. I learned it very well when I was copying some of their paintings at the museums when I was a student. And I can tell you that artists searched for the tools that could help them improve their works all the time, and for us now, Procreate is that kind of tool. My name is Yana, and I will be with you during this course. I will be your lecturer, your teacher, your friend, basically. And I'm an artist with a pretty wild experience. I create oil paintings, watercolor illustrations. I create digital illustrations, of course, using Procreate, and Procreate is my favorite software to create them. I also have a teaching experience. I have a lot of students that I'm working with, and so you are in the very safe hands, and my goal for this course to give you as much as possible, to share with you as much as I can, as much as I know. And during this course we will learn the basics of art. We will learn how we can build the form. Of course, first of all, we will learn the Procreate software and interface, but then we will dig deeper into various kinds of art, such as illustrations, animations, how to create realistic paintings or drawings, as you wish. And also we will take a look on 3D feature of the Procreate. But there are two main things that I have learned, and the first one is everyone could draw. You do not need any education to start creating. You don't have to be a genius. Your art will always be about you, and it always will be special, and it only requires you desire to create and an open mind, and everyone can learn how to draw. And I'm here as your friend to help you on this journey, because the second thing is you need a good teacher, and during this course I will be your good teacher. I will be your teacher. Hi again! We are about to start our course, but what is Procreate? If you ask me, Procreate is one of the best apps to open the world of digital art. It gives you so many opportunities to work on your creative potential without any struggling. You can make posters, digital paintings, book illustrations, tattoo sketches, and so many other things. You're only limited by your own imagination, but I will help you with this as well. I will show you how you can find your inspiration and style, and will tell you about some exercises to help your imagination grow and show itself. It's interesting to know that fine artist David Hockney created a series of landscape paintings using Procreate, and comics artist Jim Lee used it to sketch Batman and the Joker series. And there are so many talented artists around. You can go to Procreate Folio to see other artists' works and even share your own with the world. Together, you can easily search it in your browser, or you can open your Procreate app any canvas or image that you have already drawn and tap Actions, Help, and here you are, just at the bottom before the Leave a Review section. You can tap on the Procreate folio and see all of these beautiful artworks made by so many artists. But let's return to Procreate. So, there are two types of graphics in digital, vector and raster. Vector graphics are digital art that is rendered by a computer using a mathematical formula. Raster images are made up of tiny pixels. It basically means no matter how many times will you zoom in vector image, you can see a smooth, beautiful line. And if you zoom in raster image, you can see a little squares, pixels. So Procreate is a raster graphics software. This drawing, sketching, and painting app is made exclusively for iPad. As it says on its website, loved by creative professionals, Procreate has everything you need to create expressive sketches, rich paintings, gorgeous illustrations, and beautiful animations. Procreate is the complete art studio you can take anywhere, packed with unique features and intuitive creative tools. And I agree with every word. As a traditional painter, I need to borrow many materials and supplies to create paintings, and it can be very often hard when you want to travel without any check-in baggage because of the liquids. Also, my bag usually weighs like 10 kilograms and it only paints, brushes and liquids, but you also need something that you can put your canvas on. So it's pretty much, right? With Procreate, the only thing you need is the iPad and Apple Pencil. You can make drawings everywhere, and if you want to recreate them in oils, you can basically do it later. Procreate won its first Apple Design Award for Outstanding Design and Innovation in 2013, and it can't be more fair. Procreate is a digital software that is very intuitive and simple to use. This year, they also won the award, but this time for its inclusivity. Winners in this category provide a great experience for all by supporting people from a diversity of backgrounds, abilities, and languages. So, how to get Procreate? As I said before, Procreate is made exclusively for iPad, so if you want to get it, you should go straight to the App Store, search for Procreate, and click it to download it. Procreate costs now $9.99, basically $10, but it's not a subscription. You pay only once and it's yours forever. Isn't it great? You can also see the page screenshots and ratings, but for me the interesting point is what's new. The Procreate team works hard to make their product even better, and for this version I see really important features like large canvases will no longer experience lagging after performing undos. Exporting as a PNG with Page Assist on will now retain the background color. Procreate team works hard to make their app even better so you can have the best experience. And right below the new improvements, you can see the reviews and just look at them. So many inspired and grateful people. But the important thing is the Procreate support team works really great. They answer fast and you can always rely on them. So once again, to get this app, you should click download, wait for a little, and then open it. And here you are. You are ready to start and create. So now when you successfully downloaded an app and opened it, the page you see is your gallery. As you can see, my gallery is full of stacks with different projects, but when you first open it, there should be 4 artworks. So what do we see and can do from here? We can see at the top left Procreate and at the top right select, import, photo and plus icon. So if we tap on the Procreate, we can here restore example artworks and start gallery recovery. It is useful if you reinstall your app and you want to recover your gallery of your artworks. So if we restore example artworks, we can see now this beautiful 4 illustrations, digital paintings, and now we can, for example, select, tap on them, And now we selected them. So we can create a stack. And now we can once again select them. And we can preview these works. So now we can preview only these 4 artworks. And if we double tap on the artwork, we can now create some changes in it. So you can do whatever you want, but this artwork is completely beautiful without any touches. So let's get back to the gallery. And now we can select them all once again. We can share these artworks. We can duplicate them, and we can select our duplicates as well. And we can delete these artworks. So the stack deleted as well because there are no artworks. We can import any file from your iPad. We can import photo, and we can create new canvas. So here are some pre-made canvases. You can choose any of them, but you can create your own. Just tap on this icon, and here you can see that you can choose dimensions, width and height. So for example, it can be 3000 and 4000 pixels. So the next thing you see is DPI. What is this? DPI refers to the number of printed dots contained with 1 inch of an image printed by a printer. So basically it is for the images that you would like to print. And we can see maximum layers that we can create on. So for this size of the canvas, we can use 51 layer. And if we change it to width, for example, of 2000 on 4000, we can create on 79 layers. So let's go back to the 3500. The next thing you see, you can choose your color profile, RGB, CMYK, and it is useful if you want to print your image, because if you choose RGB system, it can sometimes impact on the way certain colors are printed, meaning you won't get the finish you are after. So for images that you would like to print, you basically should choose CMYK. But I won't print my image, so now let's move on, and here is time-lapse settings. So here I chose 4K and studio quality, and you can choose whatever you want, but you should remember that you should set the settings when you create a canvas. Otherwise, you can have a low quality of your time-lapse. And it is crucial if you want to make videos. So the next one is canvas properties. You can choose your background color. For now, you can see it is white, but we can set gray, maybe warm gray color. Or you can make your background hidden, but I don't want to do it. So now we can tap on create, and here we are, it's our canvas. So here at the top left, we see actions, adjustments, selection tool, and transform tool. At the top right, we see brush library, smudge, eraser, layers, and color. And one more thing, we have sidebar. It's on the left side. So here we can resize our brush, and we can change the opacity of our brush. Also, we can use this little square. It is modify button, and if you tap the square modify button on the sidebar, we can choose colors from our canvas, as you can see. And we have two arrows, like if I make some moves, I should change the color, I can undo it or redo it. Also, at the top center, you can see three dots. If you tap on it, you can have the other window, like your Safari. Here I am at the Procreate folder. So now you have two screens, or you can make your Procreate smaller, or you can have full size again. So now if you would like to change your interface, you can go to the actions, choose Profs, and here you can see that you can change your interface to the light interface, or you can change it back, and you can choose right hand interface or change it back. And also you can add brush cursor. So it means that when you draw, you can see a tiny path around, a tiny stroke around your brush. So here you can see it, a tiny stroke, and I will use it so you can always see where I am drawing, where I make my moves. And that's it, we are ready to the next video. Now, let's talk about how to make your drawing process easier and faster with gestures. How to move around your canvas, how to flip it, undo and redo, copy and paste. Apple Pencil is great, but you can draw even without it. You can tap to choose your color and brush and simply paint with your fingers. I prefer to work with Apple Pencil, but it is unnecessary. And for me, it seems like the lines are more accurate, and since I first started as a traditional painter, it is just easier to feel the process. But it's all about the habit. If you prefer to draw with fingers, go ahead and do it. So again, to start, you should select the brush and color and tap anywhere you want to start your lines. And if you use Apple Pencil and want to use your fingers only for gestures, you can open Actions, Profs, Gesture Controls, and set any settings you want, like disable touch actions. So now when I touch the screen with my fingers, nothing happens. But as I leave gestures, I can undo, redo, call the quick menu, so only gestures and no drawing with fingers. It is very helpful because sometimes your hand can mess with your Apple Pencil, so the lines aren't as great as you wish. So don't forget to set the settings according to your preferences to have the best experience. So what can we do with gestures? We can pinch to zoom, so we can zoom in, zoom out. We can move our canvas around. We can quick pinch to feed the screen. We can tap with our two fingers to undo, tap with three fingers to redo our moves. But you should remember that if you return to the gallery or exit Procreate, all undo states are clear, so you cannot undo or redo your moves once again. You can also clear a layer in an instant if you scrub out the layer contents by moving three fingers side to side in scrubbing motion. So now your layer is fully cleared. You can swipe three fingers down to the screen to call up the copy paste menu. You can tap forefinger for full screen, once again to change it back. And we can draw and hold for a quick shape. So it means that when you create a line and you would like it to be straight, if you pause, you can see now that this line is straight. And if we draw the circle and we would like to have a circle, as you see now it's ellipse, but if we use one finger and tap it, so here is our beautiful circle. So what about Apple Pencil? if you tap twice, you can have a quick eraser. It switches to eraser, and as you can see, my eraser opacity is not full, not 100, and now it's 100, so I can erase my lines, and I can tap twice again, and now I have a brush. Right. Also, Procreate has single-touch gestures to aid with navigating the canvas. This can be helpful for those with limited hand mobility or functionality. To access the single-touch gestures companion, go to your global iPad OS settings, Procreate, and toggle single-touch gestures companion on. And now, as you can see, we have this beautiful window, and we can tap on undo, on redo, on zoom, and we can zoom out and zoom in. We can move our canvas, and we can fit the canvas. If we go to our layers, we can, for example, create one more layer, and if we pinch these two layers, we have now one layer. For example, let's create one more layer with other color, and now, as you can see, I have a line on this layer, and if I once again pinch these two layers, it is one single layer. Now, when you are at the layers panel, you can see this bright blue color. It means that this layer is your primary layer. But if you need to select your secondary layer, like this, you can swipe right with one finger, and now you can make a group of these two layers. Now, there is one function that you will use regularly. It calls alpha lock. If you swipe with your two fingers to the right, you can alpha lock your layer. So any further drawing touches will only affect the existing artwork on the layer, and any transparent area will behave like a mask and remain untouched. Alpha Lock is a great feature. It lets you texture, detail, or shade elements of your artwork without painting outside the lines. And also, if you two-finger hold, you can select layer contents. This will select only the parts where you have drawn, painted, or pasted images. Transparent parts of the layer won't be selected. And remember that you can always customize gestures by going to Actions, Prefs, Gesture Controls, so you can have the best experience for yourself. Let's talk a little bit more about the accessibility features. There is a variety of accessibility features that can help you through the app. You can experiment with them to see if they can help you. So let's try it out together. We already talked about single touch. With single touch gestures, you can undo, redo, zoom, move, and rotate your canvas, as well as fit to canvas, all through the single touch gestures companion. The Single Touch Gestures companion is a small window that flows about your canvas when activated through the Procreate global settings. VoiceOver. With VoiceOver, people with impaired vision can get a lot more of their iPad. It will tell them what they have pressed to navigate and provide them with more information about the app. But you should know that while a VoiceOver is active, you cannot draw. So to quickly turn it on or off, you can set up a shortcut, and this will help you avoid the needing in going back to the global settings every time you want to work. And don't worry if you need to use more than one shortcut. I have multiple accessibility shortcuts. You can go to Settings on your iPad, Accessibility shortcut, and turn VoiceOver on. So now when you triple click on the Home button, you can on and off it. Also, you can set larger accessibility text feedback sounds, so it was created to alert you to the errors that have been made. This can also alert the vision impaired if a Procreate input has been incorrectly entered. And you can even set color description notifications. With the color card, you can easily see the swatches and the title of the corresponding color in Procreate. This feature helps the colorblind and vision impaired to use the colors easily. An active colors name displays at the top of the screen when you use the eyedropper or select a new swatch in palettes. And there are even more. With Tap Assistant's initial touch location support, stroke stabilization, motion filtering amount, motion filtering expression, tip attachment, people who experience tremors can have better experience using Procreate. So please don't forget to check these settings so you can have the best experience using Procreate. Let's talk about the Apple Pencil once again. As I said before, you do not need Apple Pencil to start creating your illustrations and drawings. But as for my experience, it is much more comfortable to use it. So when you first opened Procreate, you do not need any settings to connect your Apple Pencil. With Apple's Scribble function, you can now use your Apple Pencil to write in any text or numerical field where you can enter information. This includes naming layers, entering percentages and numbers in Brush Studio, or entering type in Add Text. The dynamic range of the Apple Pencil is huge, which means that it can draw with a hard time reaching 100% opacity or pressure. If you use a lighter touch, you might not be able to enjoy the full range of sensitivity. With Procreate's app pressure sensitivity curve, you can easily adjust the feel of your Apple Pencil. The feedback generated by the Apple Pencil can affect the way Procreate brushes respond. For instance, if you want a thicker stroke, you can tie the size of your brush to the pressure of the Apple Pencil. On the other hand, if you want a solid line, you can tie the tilt of your brush to the opacity of the pencil. This allows you to create a solid line while holding your brush upright. With the help of pressure, you can also morph the textures of your brush into different colors. The combination of Procreate brushes and the Apple Pencil can create unique effects. With hundreds of settings, you can easily control the way your brush responds to the feedback generated by the Apple Pencil, and you can draw just in the way you like it. You can also connect a keyboard to your Procreate. It can connect any capable keyboard via Bluetooth or the iPad Pro Smart connector. Procreate's keyboard shortcuts are based on the same standards as those used in other illustration softwares. You can access various features such as eyedropper, copy and paste, and etc. Let's talk about the Quick Menu feature. The Quick Menu is a fully customizable menu that can be used to quickly navigate through various functions. There are 6 radial buttons that can be used to invoke the menu, and there are also a variety of shortcut options. To enable the Quick Menu, you should tap Actions, Prefs, Gesture Controls, and then Quick Menu. So I draw with Apple Pencil, and in General section, I set Disable Touch Actions. So for the Quick Menu, I choose to tap the Modify button. So now when I click on the Modify button, I can see the Quick Menu. And here we can see 6 icons like New Layer, Flip Vertically, Clear Layer, Merge Down, Copy, and Flip Horizontally. But you can change them if you tap on one and hold. And now you can see the list of the actions that you can choose, like maybe I prefer not to flip horizontally, but I want to liquefy my image. And so now I can use this function. So during this course, you will see how different Procreate tools works, so you can then set your Quick Menu according to your preferences. And Then it will help you to work even more effectively. And finally, let's talk about how to share your artworks. According to the Procreate handbook, using Procreate's native file format has several benefits. Your artwork loads faster. Your Procreate files are easy to share with other Procreate artists. Your progress is automatically saved in Procreate while you draw. This way you never need to worry about saving while you work. The Procreate file format also stores video data inside your image file. This allows you to view and share a time-lapse replay of your artwork creation. But also Procreate can open and save files in many other popular formats. As you can see here on the top, we can see Procreate, then PSD, PDF, etc. You can share your animations with animated GIF, animated PNG, MP4, HEVC, and also as Procreate supports 3D painting, it can also be exported as 2 3D file formats. So to share your artwork, you should tap on Actions, Share button, and now you can choose any format you want. And for example, I will choose PDF, and it allows me to choose the quality, which is good. I prefer to save it as better quality. And now you should only choose the folder where you want to save your artwork. And it's done. Your artwork is saved. Hi there! So now let's talk about the colors. As you can remember, we can find our colors as a colored circle at the top right of the screen. So it also shows us our active color. So when we tap on it, we can also see two rectangles, two colored rectangles side by side. And it shows us our primary color and our secondary color. It is very important for the brush settings, but we will talk about all of this later when we will talk about brushes and when we will create our own brushes. So for now, we can see also a color wheel, and we can see here history of our colors, our previous colors. It is very useful. And also we see here a palette. We can set any other palette by tapping on the palettes from the bottom. And here you can see some my untitled palettes, and you also can see here default palettes like Flourish, Campfire, Ascend. And when you tap on any color at the palette, like let's choose this beautiful color. Yep. And when we go back to the disk, yeah, here you can see now our beautiful palette. But let's go back to the palettes. At the top, you can see that we have two options. You can view your palette as a compact or by cards. So here you can see the names of the colors. And also you have this little plus icon. So when you tap on it, you can create your new palette. So let's create a new palette. Here you can see a beautiful but empty palette. To add some color, you can just tap on any empty space. And now you have your active color on this palette. So we can choose any color from our canvas. Yep. And once again, we can tap on any empty space, and here you go. Here you have two beautiful colors, so you can continue to create your palette. Also, we can create our palette from the camera, from file, and from photos. So let's make a palette from photos. Let's tap the plus icon, new from photos, and let's choose any image. So here you are. You have very beautiful palette from your photo, for example. So as I said before, when you first open your colors shows as a disk, but you have other options to choose. So we have here, as we said before, disk, we have classic, we have harmony and value. So if you tap on the classic. You here can see a rectangle and the sliders with the colors, hue, and brightness. So you also can just tap on any area on the rectangle and you can choose like your perfect color, but you can use sliders if you for example don't know the most saturated color from your shade. Now harmony. Harmony shows you pleasing color suggestions based on your currently selected shade. So let's take a look. Yeah, they are pretty harmonical and beautiful. Yeah, they works very good together. Oh, nice colors. The next one is value. Here you can see many sliders. You can find your best match by these sliders, but the important thing is that you have here a hexadecimal code. So if you have a hexadecimal code of the color you need, you can just paste it here or use your Apple Pencil and let's write some. So yep, now you can see we have a color. It is very useful, especially for the commissions and for illustrations. If you need the exact color, you can just paste it here and you can simply work with it. So as you can see, when we draw or write something on our canvas, our colors, they disappear and we can only see the colored circle with our active color. But you can make your color palette visible when you work. So you should just open your colors by tapping on this colored circle. And here you can see the small gray handle at the top of the color panel. So if you drag it, hold, and now you can reposition your colors any way you think that is more comfortable to work for you. And yeah, you can once again drag the small gray handle at the top. And yeah, now when we draw, we can see our colors. But we cannot see here our color history. So to return it back, we should just tap on the X button. So as a traditional painter, I really enjoy to see my colors, so it is a very useful function for me. Also, if you tap and hold the active color circle, it will switch between your current active color and your previous one. So yeah, I think that this is pretty useful as well. So how to fill our shapes with color? First we need to create some. Let's create a circle. Beautiful. So now you just need to drag the active color to this area. And as you can see, it filled with color. And you also can see a color drop threshold. So when I move it to the right, you can see that all of my canvas fills with color. And you can use this to control the area that you would like to fill. Also, you can continue filling with recolor. So here you can see a crosshair, and when you move it around, you can see that the area changes. And you can also see a flood at the bottom, so it also controls the amount of the color that you would like to use. Also, you can tap on the active color and change it. So now, as you can see, you can change it to another, and again you can change the flood. Okay, and you can do it as many times as you want, just to make sure it works perfectly for you. Yep. And to go back, you can just tap on the adjustments. And the last thing, let's talk about how to choose colors from your canvas really fast. So you can just tap on any area and hold your finger. And as you can see, we can choose any color from our canvas. Also, you can use your modify button for it. So tap on the modify button, and as you can see, I can also choose any color. But I personally don't use the modify button for it because I just can hold my finger. So to change your preferences, you can go to the actions and gesture controls, and here you can see eyedropper. So you can change your settings so they can work perfectly for you. And as you can see, I will tap modify button to invoke or dismiss our eyedropper off. Here you go. You are ready to the next one. Hi there. So in this video we will talk about the brushes. We will also talk about the smudge tool and the eraser because they all have the same settings. Let's take a look. As you can remember, we can find these tools at the top right corner of the screen. So when we tap on it, yep, we can see our beautiful brush library. Here you can see my brushes. You can see 3 sets that are different from the default sets. I will tell you about how to create your own brushes, but you should know that for our course you don't need to buy or to import any brushes. You can make beautiful drawings and illustrations using the default brushes, so don't be worried, you don't have to spend some money. But there are also so many free brush sets that you can find on the internet. And you can just import them. To do this, you just have to download them and click on them, and they will appear at your brush library. So if you want, you can take a look and explore some of the brush sets. But today and in this video we will talk about mostly about the default brushes. So let's take a look. We have sketching, inking, drawing, painting, artistic, calligraphy, so many brushes. As you can see, let's talk about the calligraphy. We can create some beautiful lines and they are very stabilized. And sometimes you don't need that kind of stability for your brush, so you can tap on it. And here at the brush studio, you can change the stabilization. So the stabilization section, it's about the amount. So when we make it like 100%, it is very stabilized. And if we set it like for none, you can see that we can create any chaotic lines. And also you can set the pressure, so depending on the pressure of your Apple Pencil, your lines will appear more or less stabilized. So yeah, take a look at settings if you would like to create the most comfortable lines for your drawing. I will set it like for 40, 39. Okay, done. We will talk about the brush studio later when we will create our brushes, but you can see already that we have a variety of the settings, so like spacing. As you can see, if I set it on the max, you can see that it appears with only dots. Jitter, fall off, etc. Stabilization, we saw this. Taper, it's about the pressure, the size, etc. And all other settings we will cover at the next video. So let's click on done. And here you can find very interesting brushes like elements. It will appear like, for example, if we choose water, let's make it lighter and bigger. And here you can see it looks like a sea. Or we can, for example, create with oceans. So take a look before you apply some textures to your drawings. Take a look on the brush library, because maybe you already have some of the texture here, like the textures are setting wood. So you don't need to create, for example, wood floor for yourself. You can just use this brush, but don't forget about the pressure. And you can also find pretty useful, as I am, the luminance section. So let's take a look. Flare, it looks like a sun, and if as you can see, it goes like a stamp. But if you would like to change the directions of this stamp, you just can move your canvas and direction changed. So yep, now it looks like some sparkles. And you can choose glimpse. Ooh, it's like there was some fairy, I guess. Okay, industrial, organic. Here you can find some grass, some clay, water, but water looks more like some paint sprays, as you can see. Yep. So, for example, if you work with your nickel brush and you would like to blend this shade with another, you can, of course, choose and use your opacity. And as you can see, it's like blending. But you can choose and use the smudge tool. So let's take a look. Let's choose smudge tool and let's choose nickel. Okay, and now let's take a look. You see, this tool is blending our colors. And depending on the opacity, it will blend it less or more. So we can have pretty nice gradient. So the smudge tool is very useful to create some shapes, volume, to create everything. And also eraser. Eraser has the brush library sets as well, so we can choose like fur texture, and we can erase here, and we will have the erased area like some furry area. It is very useful. I love this function of the Procreate because sometimes you need to erase something and it is with the texture and you don't want to change anything about it, so you can choose your the same texture as your drawings and apply it will erase very beautiful. So if you would like, for example, to change quickly your tool to smudge or to brush, but at the eraser tool you have the furry brush, you can, and at the smudge tool we have a nickel brush, we can just from the eraser tap and hold the smudge tool, and as you can see, it appears with our furry brush. And the same for the brush, tap and hold, and you can see that we have here furry brush. So for example, if we would like one more time, choose here dots from the brush, we have these beautiful dots, and we want quickly change it to the smudge tool with the same brush, we can tap and hold, and it appears with dots as well, and so as the eraser. Okay, so now it all erased with these beautiful dots. Don't forget to check your sidebar, of course. Don't forget about the points. You can add, for example, your brush size, just tap on plus, and once again, for example, for more little brush, you can tap on plus again, and the same for the opacity. So if you need to have some samples of your lines, you can find it pretty useful, as I am. And to remove it, you just need to tap on it and tap on the minus icon, and it's all gone. Yep. So yes, it's all about our brushes. Before you start drawing, please take a look on these sets, try all of the brushes, try it with different pressure, try it with different sides, so you can know with which tools you are working with and which size of the brush or which brush to choose for your drawings. Thank you so much, and let's move to the another video where we will create our own brushes. Hi there! So we have already learned about how to use our brushes. So now let's take a look on how to make our own unique ones. So let's go to the brush library, and if we swipe up our brush sets, we can see a plus icon. Let's tap on it and let's create our unique brush set. So you can call it anything you want, even some maybe emoji. So let's name it. Okay. And now to create a brush, you should tap on the plus icon at the top right corner of the brush library. And now you should simply tap on your brush. So it opens us a brush studio, and here the first thing you need is a shape. So let's choose a shape. As you can see, by default it is a circle, but let's choose another one. So you should tap on edit, and here you can see at the top right, import. And you can see image source options. So we can import a photo, import a file, we can choose from source library, or we can paste. We will cover all of these like 3 options, but now let's choose from the source library. Let's choose any texture. Like for example, let's choose fine spray. Why not? And to apply this shape, you should click on done. Now you can see we have a drawing pad. You can here tap and clear, for example, or choose your preview size. Also, you can choose here a color of your brush preview, but now let's use a white one. So next we can choose our shape's behavior. So here we can see and choose how our brush scatter, the rotation, count jitter, and etc. The easiest way to understand it just to play with the sliders and to see on practice how it works, because it is not that simple to remember all of these things. So just let's move them and let's take a look on how our shape behaves. So for this shape, I think that scatter should be like 80% with this beautiful smoothness, and rotation, as you can see, I don't need any movements of the rotation. Count, I think I can choose like 1 or 2, maybe 2. Count jitter, I don't need it here, and etc. So just play around and take a look on how it works. Shape filtering, no filtering, classic filtering. For this particular shape, if we choose no filtering, you see that it appears like a very grainy textured shape. Maybe let's leave it like here. So the next one, let's take a look on the stroke path. So here we can choose spacing, jitter, and fall off. So if we choose spacing, you see that if we set on the maximum, it appears as separate dots. I don't need this for this particular brush, so I will choose spacing on 17% or maybe even less. Jitter, you see it looks like maybe some cloud or some snowflakes. Yeah, I don't need it either. And the fall off. Fall off looks pretty beautiful, so maybe for 13% it will be great. Stabilization. Stabilization for this brush is not that necessary, but as you can see, if I draw with the amount for 75 and maybe stabilization for amount of 50%. You see, no chaotic lines. So yeah, I definitely don't need this option for this brush. So I will set it for none and the streamline for none as well. The next option is topper. So it's about how your brush behaves when you tap on it with your Apple Pencil or with your fingers. So from the top, you can see that if we move our first sliders and if we choose our size like for maximum, you see that our line at the beginning appears thinner, and when we tap on our brush like with more pressure, it is much more smoother, rounded texture. So yeah, touch topper as well, but here you should choose and work with your finger. So these options are about how your brush behaves when you tap on your canvas with it. But for this particular brush I don't need any of it, so I will choose it as it was. And the next one is the shape. We already set it. Let's move to the grain. Grain is about the texture within your shape. So now you can see that we have a white blank, like blank shape. So here we can tap on edit and choose our grain. So let's tap on import. As we've done with the shape, let's tap on source library. And we can choose here any texture we want. So maybe let's choose this one. And let's click on done. Okay, now you see that our brush appears with the texture, and we have sliders. So we can choose the movement, we can choose the scale, zoom, etc. Just play with these sliders around and choose the texture of your brush. The important option to choose from here is moving and texturized. So let's take a look. If we choose texturized, you can see that the texture is like underneath our brush. So it's like if we erase our layer and here is the texture. And when we choose moving, you see that our texture follows our moves within the shape. So for this brush, I will choose moving option. The next one is rendering. And as it says on the Procreate handbook, rendering effects are best understood by imaging physical paint on canvas. So the light glaze is more like watercolors, and intense blending is more like oil paints. So I suggest you to choose another color, like blue or pink, it doesn't matter, and to play around with these modes so you can see how all of them works. So for example, light glaze is maybe not watercolor, but a chalk or pastel. And here you can also play with the sliders. You see that when we choose the flow, it affects our opacity. And when we choose the wet edges or burnt edges, you see how our edges behaves. So yeah, just play around with these modes. For this particular brush, I don't need any of these settings. I just choose the intense glaze, flow for maximum, and wet edges at none, burnt edges at none, and other settings as normal or off. So the next one is wet mix. According to the Procreate handbook, wet mix is about how your brush interacts with color and how the color you lay down interacts with the canvas. So basically it's about how to create brushes as more traditional paints. Here you can see settings as dilution, charge, attack, pull, grade, blur, blur jitter, wetness jitter. So here, for example, you have a charge. It's about the longer you drag your stroke out, the more paint it will leave behind on canvas. As the brush runs out of paint, the trail of colored leaves will become less intense. Dilution is how much water mixes in the paint on your brush. Attack is about the amount of paint that sticks to the canvas. So, basically it will be better if you play around with these settings, and I should have warned you that if you would like to see how it works, you should basically click on Done when you change some of these settings and see how it works on your canvas, not on your drawing pad, because unfortunately here you cannot see how it works. So once again, for this particular brush, I don't need these settings. So let's move to the color dynamics. And with color dynamics, you can really see some magic in here. So you remember that we have two colors on our color tool. So we have an active color, and we have as a primary color, and we have a secondary color. And I said that we will talk about this later. So this later is now. So the color dynamics is about how your brush works with the secondary color. So for example, let's go to the color pressure, and let's set a saturation here for maximum. Let's choose another color, not white, so maybe green. And let's set the hue for the maximum as well. And the last one, secondary color, for 71%. So now let's take a look. And you see the harder we press, the more color appears. So yeah, it's a beautiful like rainbow brush. We can set the brightness as well, so it appears brighter. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful brush, but let's move over to the dynamics. So these settings are about how to create strokes depending on how fast you move your Apple Pencil, for example. You see at the speed size, if we create like the lowest one, you see that my strokes appears really thin when I move slower, and when I move faster, my strokes are larger. And for example, if I set opacity for minus 80% or more, you can see that if I move my pencil a little slower, I don't even see any of the strokes. But if I move faster, I can see one. So, and with the jitter size and opacity. Now let's go to the Apple Pencil settings. So here we can set our pressure. So if I set my pressure size for like 50%, you can see the more I press on my canvas, the larger my stroke appears. And if I set the size for minus 50%, you can see that the more pressure I give on my pencil on my canvas, my stroke appears thinner. And the same with the flow, the bleed. So the next one is tilt, and it's about how you move your Apple Pencil, and depending on it and the settings you set, you can see the changes of your brush. So the tilt can help you to create brushes that behaves like a graphite pencil, for example, or any graphite materials. The next setting is properties, and it's about the brush properties, how it appears on your brush library, and it's about brush behavior. So for example, you can set the size of your brush, minimum and maximum, opacity, minimum and maximum. The next one is materials, and we don't need this one for now, but I will cover it when we will talk about the 3D painting on Procreate. The next one is about this brush, and here you can add your signature, your photo, you can name this brush, so anyone who you will share this brush with will see who it was made by. And that's it. Let's take a look on our brush. Let's click on Done. And here you see that we have a beautiful, like, rainbow brush. So in the next video we will create our own texture, and we will paste it for our shape, and we even will create a stamp brush. So let's move there. Hi there, hope you're all doing great so far. In this video we will talk about the layers. We will talk about how to organize, how to create, how to make groups, etc. We will talk about the settings, and we also will talk about the importance of the layers. So let's go. I really enjoy the definition of the layers as glass sheets on which you can paint. So each layer stays independent, but it all combines in one beautiful painting. You can apply different effects, you can create changes, but it won't affect the whole image. So it is really crucial to know how to create layers and how to work with them. And using layers, you will have the best results of your drawings. So let's take a look. We can find our layers between the eraser tool and the color tool. Here, when we tap on them, you can see that we have our background color, our first layer, and we have a plus icon. So if you tap on the plus icon, you will simply create a new layer, and Procreate automatically defines it as a second layer. It appears as a light blue colored layer, but if we swipe right on our first layer, you can see that our first layer now is darker blue. And you can see at the top that we have two new icons. We can delete them or we can group them. So let's make a group. And now you have a group. Now when we choose our, for example, second layer, let's draw something. And let's also draw something on our first layer with a different color so you can see the changes. From now you can clearly see how our images appears depending on the layer. So if we work on the layer that on the top, we can see all of the images, but we cannot see some pieces from the layer that goes under because our top image goes on the top, right? But you can definitely tap and hold the layer, and then you can move it all around. You can even move it to the gallery. You can just tap, hold your layer, and with your other finger you can go to the gallery. And if you drop your layer on the gallery, it will create you a brand new image. You can also, once again, tap and hold on your layer. You can move it to the gallery. You can open any image you want to, and you can drop your layer on the image. So now you see that you have your beautiful layer on your any image you want it to appear on. Now let's move back to our layers, our first image with our layers. And as I said before, you have here your background color. It appears like white for me, but I can definitely choose any color I want from the color wheel. And also I can make my background color transparent. So to make it, I should just click on the check mark. And as you can see, my background color now is hidden. Also, you can add any photo or file on your layers. You should just go to the actions and insert a file, insert a photo, take a photo. You can add text from here. But you could also insert a file or a photo as a private one. And in that case, it won't appear on your time-lapse video. So it is very good for some content you will be creating, for example. To make one, you should just go to the actions, add, and when you can see insert a file and insert a photo, you should just swipe left, and you see here that we can insert a private file. So it is very simple, but pretty useful. We already talked about how to create a group, but let's talk about how to organize your layers. So you can choose your primary layer and then your second layer, and you can create a group. and you can rename this group. For example, you should just tap on the group, and here you will see 3 actions that you could apply. You can rename, you can flatten, and you can combine down. So if we tap on rename, we can rename our layer. You can flatten them, so let's make it. As you can see, it combined our 2 layers into one, and you can undo and redo it by tapping with your 2 fingers or by tapping it on the arrow. But you should remember that you cannot undo it later. So if you need these layers to stay separate, just don't do it. You can also combine your layers by a simple pinch gesture, and if you, for example, have like 5 layers, this gesture will combine them all. But once again, remember that later you cannot undo this. Now, let's take a look on what we got when we tap on the layer. So let's tap on it. Here we can rename, we can select this layer, we can copy, we can fill this layer with color, we can clear all the content from the layer, we can create an alpha log, we can create a mask, a clipping mask, drawing assist, we can invert this layer. It will invert with the complementary color on the color wheel. We can create this layer as a reference, and it is very important thing. So let's say that you've got one layer like a line drawing. You can set this layer as a reference, and then you can go and create new layers, and you can fill these layers with different colors, but you can see that these color drops won't go beyond your lines. So basically your referenced layer now applied to all of your layers. The other 2 options is to merge down. We already talked about it. You can simply use your fingers and combine your layers, but you can also combine down and it will create a group. So it won't mix your layers all together, it will create a group of these layers. Now I think that it is pretty clear what is clear the layer or copy or fill layer, select, rename, yeah. But what is alpha log? So let's take a look. Alpha log allows you to make changes, to create changes only on the existing artwork. It makes our background or any transparent area locked. So let's click on it. You can also swipe your 2 fingers from the left to the right, so it also activates alpha log. And now let's try to create some changes. Let's set a different color. And as you can see, yep, it only applies to the existing area. And that's all about the layers. So try to keep them away from the mess. And I'll see you in the next video. Hi guys! So now when we discussed the layers, let's talk about the blend modes. It could be scary at the first sight and confusing, but trust me, you will love them. It's one of the most useful tools to work with lights and shadows and also to add color to your drawings. It creates really interesting and beautiful effects. So let's begin. By default, in a normal blending mode, content on a layer is opaque and covers up the contents of layer underneath it. But with other blending modes, you could add color, light or darkness just using 2 layers. So yep, for blend modes to work, you need at least 2 layers. The layer below is the base layer and the layer on top is the blend layer. To see other blend modes, you should open your layer and just click on the letter on the right hand side of every layer. By default, it will be the letter N, just like on my screen. But when you switch to another blend mode, the letters are changing as well, so you could always know what mode you are working with. The blend modes menu has 2 parts, the name of the current blend mode and the opacity slider. Opacity controls how transparent a layer is. Move the slider left to make your layer more transparent or to the right so it becomes more solid. You can also adjust layer opacity by 2-finger tapping a layer. And once again, move the slider to the left or to the right. So when you are in the blend modes menu, you could scroll them and see the preview of the effects, and when you choose the one, just tap anywhere outside to close the list. Remember that your default mode is called normal, so if you don't like this effect with your drawing, just switch it to normal, or as you know, tap on the screen using 2 fingers. Now, there are 26 blend mode types, and I know it sounds like a lot, but don't run away, we will talk more closely about some of them in practice, but now let me explain all of them to you quick and easy. As we remember, Procreate is about pixels, so blend mode applies to a single pixel at a time to get the resulting blend. Some blending modes have neutral colors, or colors that have no effect when blended. For example, the neutral color for the multiply blending mode is white. Any whites on the layer will become transparent with multiply. The neutral color for the screen mode is black. Any black pixels on the layer will become transparent with screen. As you can see on the screen, white color is neutral for all modes that are before the normal blending mode, and black is neutral for many of the blending modes that are below the normal. Multiply. Let's talk about it. This blending mode multiplies the luminosity of the base color by the blend color. The resulting color is always darker. Multiply can produce many different levels of darkening depending on the luminosity values of the blend layer. Multiply is a great blending mode for darkening images or creating shadows. Darken. This mode does not blend pixels, but compares the base and blend colors, and keeps the darker of the two. If the blend layer and the base layer color are the same, darken makes no change. Color burn. The color burn blending mode gives you a darker result than multiply by increasing the contrast between the base and the blend colors, resulting in more highly saturated midtones and reduced highlights. Linear burn. Linear burn decreases the brightness of the base color based on the value of the blend color. This gives you a result that is darker than the multiply but less saturated than color burn. It produces more contrast in darker colors than other blend modes. Darker color. The darker color blending mode is very similar to darken. This blending mode does not blend pixels, it only compares the base and blend colors and keeps the darkest of the two. The difference is the dark color looks at the composite of all the RGB channels, whereas darken looks at each RGB channel individually to come up with a final blend. So as you can see, for all of these blend modes, white was a neutral color. But now let's talk about the blending modes that have a black as a neutral color. Lighten. This mode does not blend pixels, but compares the base and blend colors, and keeps the brightest of the two. If the blend mode and base colors are the same, lighten makes no change. Screen. Screen produces different levels of brightening depending on the luminosity values of the blend layer. The resulting color is always brighter color. This makes it an ideal blending mode for brightening images or creating highlights. Color dodge. Color dodge is based on the dodge tool used to brighten images in traditional photography. It creates a brighter effect than screen by decreasing the contrast between base and blend colors. The results in saturated midtones and blown-out highlights. Add. Much like screen or color dodge, add will produce an even stronger result. It looks at the color information in each channel and brightens the base color. Add does this to reflect the blend color by increasing the brightness. Lighter color. Lighter color functions like lighten. Rather than looking at each RGB channel individually, lighter color takes a composite of all the RGB channels. Overlay. Overlay works like a combination of multiply and screen. It both lightens and darkens images by shifting the midtones. Dark blend colors shift the midtones to darker colors. Light tones shift the midtones to brighter colors. One difference between overlay and the other contrast blending modes is that it makes its calculations based on the brightness of the colors. in the base layer. All of the other contrast blending modes make their calculations based on the brightness of the blend layer. Another way of thinking about overlay is by thinking of shifting midtones. Dark tones shift the midtones to darker colors, and light tones shift the midtones to brighter colors. Soft light. Soft light is like a gentler version of overlay. It applies subtle darkening or lightening effects based on luminance values. You can think of soft light as a softer version of overlay without the harsh contrast. Hard light. Hard light is like a combination of multiply and screen. It uses the brightness values of the blend layer to make its calculations. Results with hard light tend to be more intense. As with all blend modes, reducing the layer's opacity will soften the result. Vivid light. Vivid light is an extreme version of overlay and soft light. Anything that's darker than 50% gray is darkened. Anything lighter than 50% gray is lightened. Like hard light, it can produce very strong results and may work best with reduced opacity. Liner light. Another blend mode that produces very strong results, liner light, combines dodge effects on lighter pixels with burn effects on darker pixels. Its results may also work better with a little reduced opacity. Pin light. It is like an extreme blend mode. Pin light performs darken and lighten at the same time. It creates a patchy result with all midtones removed. Hard mix. So hard mix is an extreme blend mode as well. It flattens detail. It creates a super flat, super saturated result that almost looks posterized. Hard mix provides a result using only white, black, and only any of the 6 primary colors: red, green, blue, cyan, magenta, or yellow. Opacity adjustments can soften the result. So we can categorize the other blending modes as the inversion blending modes. They look for variations between the base and blend layers to create the blend. So, difference. As the name suggests, difference uses the difference of the base and blend colors to create the resulting blend. White pixels invert the colors of the base layer. Black pixels produce no change, while dark grays apply slight darkening. Exclusion. Exclusion works the same way as the difference between blacks and whites but doesn't darken grays. Subtract. Subtract darkens colors drastically by subtracing brightness. Light areas darken the most, while already dark areas produce little change. Divide. Divide is the opposite of subtract. Darker colors create brighter results, while already light areas produce little change. Hue. Use hue to change the hues in a layer while maintaining the tones and saturation of the original. Saturation. The saturation blend mode preserves the luminosity and hue of the base layer. It does this whilst adopting the lowest saturation value of each for any given pixel. Color. Color preserves the luminosity of the base layer while adopting the hue and saturation of the blend layer. This makes it ideal for coloring monochromatic images, for example, if creating a fully shaded character portrait in grayscale, use a color layer over the top to make it to full color. Luminosity. Luminosity preserves the hue and saturation of the base layer while adopting the luminosity of the blend layer. I know that it may sound a little bit hard for now, but trust me, it's all about the practice, and we will use these blend modes so you can see the results on your images. And for my illustration, you see, for the sun, I used the blend modes, and I used it to create this soft light on my character. We will use them, and you will see on the practice how it all works. And now let's just move to another lesson. Hi there! So in this video we will talk about how to create, manipulate and use masks in Procreate. Basically there are 3 types of masks in Procreate: alpha lock, clipping mask and layer mask. We all know that mask is something that can hide or protect things, so Procreate masks are doing the same thing. So let's take a quick look on them. We already know that alpha log gives us opportunity to make changes only on the existing area of the layer, so it blocks all the transparent outside. But what about other two masks? Clipping mask works pretty similar as an alpha log, but it creates a new layer using the lower one as a reference, so your previous one is safe from changes. You can add or delete clipping mask anytime, and you can add as many as you want, but keep in mind that you have limited amount of layers. So don't be afraid of creating mistakes or combine your layers. The less layers you have, the easier it is to navigate on your workspace, so try to keep your layer panel from mess. So what about the layer mask? Layer mask hide and show parts of the artwork layer. When you edit the mask, you can only use shades of gray or black and white colors, where white shows and black hides. Any gray shades makes your drawings semi-transparent. So now let's talk about how to create all of them. So to create a layer mask, it is pretty simple. You should just tap on your layer and you should choose here alpha log, mask or clipping mask. But remember that you can choose alpha log by just swiping your fingers from left to the right. You can also create a mask by selecting the layer content and then creating a new layer and tapping on this layer, create mask. So in that case, you will have the mask of the content that you have selected. I know that it may sound confusing because it seems like these tools have pretty similar effects. But you know, sometimes you just need to hide some content of your layer, but you won't erase it already. You're not sure that you need to erase this content. And for example, layer mask can help you in this very well. So try to think about all of these masks as clipping mask is to add something and layer mask is about how to hide something, but once again, without affecting on your drawing. And also, clipping masks are independent of the layer they affect, so you can pick up and move a clipping mask like any layer, and when you move a clipping mask, it will be clipped to the layer below it. Now let's quickly see how all of them works. So let's create a strawberry. So I need to make a body of my strawberry. I will choose some nice painting brush like Nickel, and I'm just creating my strawberries body. So also I would like maybe to have a tail, so let's take a look and create one. Yeah, well, why not? So from here I can create shadow on my strawberry using alpha log. So I just swipe from the left to the right, and here I am. I am on the alpha log, and and now you see that I can add a shadow and I can add a highlight to my strawberry. So now let's say that I would like to have a seeds, so I will create one layer and choose a clipping mask. Why not? And I can now create some seeds, and you see that they also don't go over the boundaries of my strawberry body. Now let's say that I'm not sure about the shape of my tail, and I would like to hide some parts. So I can click on mask. Remember that here we can go only with black or white, where black hides and white shows. So let's take a look on what it means. It means that you see that my black color works like eraser. And for example, if I move back to the white, you see that it shows again the parts. So it is really useful if you would like to make changes, but you're not sure about them and you won't erase some parts. Also using, for example, clipping mask, let's create one more clipping mask. And let's add some texture. So let's insert a file. Let's choose any texture. And you see that I have a beautiful texture over my strawberry body. And I can also add some color to it. So yeah, as you can see, we can have a pretty interesting effects using clipping masks. We will use them. So let's move.
Hi again! Congrats on getting this far. I hope you're enjoying the course and already see great results. If you want to check out the extended version of the course, go to skillademia.com where you will find our full Procreate Beginner to Advanced course with more than 60 lectures and many more projects to complete. Now, let's continue.
Hi guys! So let's talk about how to add and work with text in Procreate. So first of all, we can find it at the actions. So let's tap and edit. As far we can see that we can move or resize anywhere within the boundaries of our canvas, our text. As text appears, we see that we can write anything using the keyboard or Apple Pencil. So let's write something. And now if we double tap on the text, it will invoke the options where we can choose text fonts, style, design, and attributes. And if we tap on any of the content, it will expand to the size of our canvas. So we can choose and play around with fonts and styles, set attributes, and the design of our text. Let's take a look on some of Procreate fonts. But it's not a Procreate fonts, it's your iOS fonts. Procreate has only 3 unique fonts. I personally like Futura font with bold style. If you need other fonts, you can take a look on the top right of the window and tap on Import Font. So it will open your files, and once you've downloaded a desired font, you can simply choose it in your files and add to your Procreate library. Your text appears as almost vector format. Well, it appears as a vector format, but you can rasterize it and apply any tool, effect, or effect on it. To make your text rasterized, you should open your layers, tap on your font, and here you can see that we can choose rasterize. Let's rasterize our text. You see that now it appears as a text, so it's like if we draw something, our layer panel shows us this drawing as a preview. And now let's create this text a little bit bigger. You see, if I zoom in, I can have this very sharp edge. But let's, for example, we already know how. Let's, for example, create a clipping mask. And let's add some maybe texture to it. So let's insert a file. And now you see that we have our text with some texture. We can also transform this text. Like we can add, for example, some adjustments and choose liquify. A little preview of liquify for you. So let's, for example, you see that we can create some crazy effects with our text. So yeah. The only one thing that I completely forgot about, how to change color of your text. So let's add one more text. Let it be just a text. And now you see when we need to choose all of the content of the text and tap on our active color, and we can play around with our text color. And it is very important to remember that you need to choose some text area, so only this area will be colored by your new color. So as you can see, a half of my text now with another color. Yep. So that's it, and let's move to the next tool. See you there. Hi guys, so let's take a look on the selections tool. Our selections tool is at the top left between the adjustments and the transform tool. So it looks like a little S letter. So let's tap on it, and when we tap on it, here will appear the selection toolbar at the bottom of the screen. So here we can see that we have automatic, freehand, rectangle and ellipse options to select the content on the layer. When you first open your selections, it will appear with the freehand, but let's take a look on automatic selections. Automatic selects content with a tap. So let's tap on our screen. So when we tap, we can see a little crosshold and a selection threshold line. So when we move it to the left or to the right, you can see that less or more content is selected. Now when you selected the area you wanted to, you can see that we can here add or remove, invert, copy and paste, feather, save and load, color fill and clear. So let's take a look on color fill. Let's tap on it, and you see that the area that was selected is filled with the color. Also we can clear, and you see that this area cleared. But we can again tap on our screen, select the area once again, and we can again fill this area with the color. And let's, for example, choose feather. And you see here the amount line. So if we move it very to the right, you can see that this area blurred like a lot. And if we move it to the left, it blurred a little and very little to the none. So this is a very useful thing. Also, you can save and load, and if you tap on it and tap on the plus icon, you can see now that you have your selection number 1, and to delete it you should just swipe it to the left and delete. Also you can invert. In this case you see that all area inverted, so now you see that everything outside our area is filled with the color and our selected area is clear. We can add, we can invert it back, and let's move to the freehand. So when we are at the freehand mode, we should tap on our screen, on our canvas, and we see that we have a gray dot and a little dot line like ends, and we can let our line go and we can continue. So you can let go and tap once again as many times as you want to. You can move all around your canvas. You can move all around the content that you would like to select. And to close our selection, you should just tap on the great gray dot. So now you see that this area is selected. We can also invert, we can copy and paste, we can color fill, we can further, we can save and load, and we can clear. But also you can go from here to your brush tool, and for example you can fill your area using your brush, and you see that only selected area is filled with my brush moves. And I also can smudge this area, I can erase, I can tap on adjustments and add some noise. I can blur my area with Gaussian blur. And I can go back to my selection toolbar. I should just click on selections and hold. And for example, I can invert. So now I can go once again to my brush or my eraser or my smudge tool. I can also add some noise, color balance, so I can apply any of the effects to it. So this is really useful if you have some areas that you need to, for example, let's say just change, yeah? So if you have some areas that you want to change and you don't need any clipping mask or just mask or any of the tools that we covered before, yeah, you can use your selections. Once again, if you for some reasons lost your selection, you can tap and hold on your selection icon, and it will appear with your previous selected area. You can also tap on transform, and now you see that we can transform our selected area. So selections are very useful. Let's see rectangle. If we choose rectangle selections, we can select areas with rectangle. So it's basically the same, it only changes the way that you select your content. So if we, for example, choose from here ellipse, you see that I selected area with ellipse, and I also can invert, I can copy and paste, I can further, I can save and load, color fill, clear, and as you can see, I can switch between all of these options. So I can choose, like, for example, automatic, and then I can choose freehand, so I can choose the exact area I needed to. Let's take a look on how copy and paste works. So let's select some area with freehand. Let's select this. If you're not satisfied about the area that you chose, you can always tap with your two fingers and you can undo. You can also undo while you create the line. So for example, I'm creating, now I tap and now I'm let it go, and I think that this line is not that good. So I can just tap with my two fingers and you can see that my line goes to the previous step. So yeah, now let's select the area by tapping on the gray dot. I can see that this area is selected, and now I can tap on copy and paste, and let's go to our layer panel. Here you can see the layer that is called from selection. So this is our content from the selection that we made. And you can move it all around. You can do whatever you want. So it's your brand new layer with the content from the another layer. This is a pretty useful tool. Let's say, for example, that you have some similar elements on your drawing and you need to select them and copy and paste, and for example you cannot duplicate them from your layer panel because this layer content more elements and you don't need all of them. So you can simply go to the selections and you can choose your selected area and paste it, so you can now find your element on the layer panel. And that's it. We now know everything about the selections, so let's move to the next video. Hi guys, so in this video we will talk about the adjustments. We can find them also at the top left of our screen, so let's choose it. It's between actions and selection tool. So here we can see like a lot of tools. So we see it as 4 groups, and the first one is about color and tone, the next one is about the blur, and the next one is about some effects, and the last one it's pretty like effects as well, but we will take a look on all of them. So the first one is about the color, and let's choose hue, saturation and brightness. And you see here that we can totally change the color of our illustration. We can choose more or less saturation, so as brightness. We can also choose here, if we tap on the top of the screen, at the hue, saturation and brightness. As a default, we are at the layer mode, but we can choose pencil mode. And so we can set, for example, saturation on 88%, and we can tap on the screen with our Apple Pencil, and it will change our saturation and our hue if we set the hue as well. So it is pretty useful, like you sometimes need maybe to make your eyes brighter or to change the color of some details, so you can just choose to work with Apple Pencil, so you can change only the details. But let's move to the another one is the color balance. So let's take a look. Here we can also play with the colors, so we can also change them, but in a more smooth way. Like when we work with yellows, we can make them colder or warmer, etc. And now you can see that at the bottom of the screen we have these 3 sliders, cyan, red, magenta, green and yellow, blue. And we also have like a little sun icon, so if we tap on it, we can choose on which level we would like to work. So as the default, it is with highlights, but we can choose midtones or shadows, and we can change the colors of our shadows, for example. So it is very useful as well, but let's move. And the next one is curves. And you can see at the top that we also can work with our pencil or on the whole layer. So just try to play with them and you will see how it works. You have to tap on this line at the bottom of your screen. You can choose to work with gamma, with red, green, blue, like for example at my image. And you just need to create points by tapping on the curve and hold and move them. So you see that we can create like a deep dark shadows and super light highlights. Yeah, so that's a useful tool as well, as especially when you are at the very finish of your work and you need to create a little beautiful adjustments. And the gradient map. So we see that we have here like some default gradients. We can create our image like in black and white. We can slide it to adjust, at the top, so we can move to the left or to the right, and you see the amount of the gradient that applied to our illustration. We can also choose Apple Pencil and to work on some areas to apply the gradient. So yeah, you see that we can create some interesting effects, and we can choose like maybe mystic gradient, etc. There are a lot of the default gradients, but you can also create your own. So you should just tap on the plus icon and on the colors, and here you can choose any color you want. You can create new points by just tapping on this line, so it will create a new color point. And here you go, you now know how to create your own gradient map. Let's go to the blur. So here we see that we have options like Gaussian blur, motion blur, and perspective blur. So let's take a look on the Gaussian blur. We have the option we can work as well with the layer and with the pencil. So let's work with the layer, and you see that if I swipe my line to the right, the more blur applied to my image, and at the 100% you almost have nothing on your screen, so your image is blurred completely. This tool is very useful. You can create some smooth shadows with it. You can create some beautiful lines, like very soft lines. So yeah, I use this tool a lot. So for example, for this beautiful girl, I used this tool on the cheeks. So you see with the Gaussian blur, her blush looks very soft. But let's take a look on the motion blur. As well, you can add it on the whole layer, or you can add it with your Apple Pencil, and you see, depending on the side that you move your canvas, your whole image blurring with this. So you can create really cool effects, like you can create the running effect or the raining effect. So we have many tools, but the only thing is how to apply them on which occasions. So we will talk about many of them when we will start to create finally, but for now, just relax and listen to some of them, so it will be easier for you later to find and understand how it all works. Yeah, so motion blur is pretty nice, but let's go back, and we have perspective blur. So here you can set the point, and your blur will apply to this point. And you can choose directional point. So you see now when I move this little rectangle, my image blurs with it. And you can also move the slider to the left or to the right for the amount of the effect. You can choose to work with your Apple Pencil as well. So the next adjustments are noise, sharpen, bloom, glitch, halftone, chromatic aberration. Let's take a quick look. You can choose both. I personally use noise a lot because I like how texture look of my illustrations. So when I at the end of the drawing process, I always try to apply it, and if it looks good, I use it. I pretty often use it. You can set let's set the noise. Let's set a noise for 100, and let's take a look. We have at the bottom the options of our noise, so we can see that now we are at the clouds mode. We can choose billows. We can choose ridges. And we see here scale and octaves, so let's set the scale at 70-80%. And now we can see how our texture looks a little bit closer, so how looks ridges and how billows looks like, and the clouds. So now you can see the difference between all of them, and you can see how turbulence and octaves works. You see, beautiful. So here you could also choose to work with your Apple Pencil. The next one is sharpen, and let's take a look on it. So let's zoom our image and let's play with the slider. You see how my forms become more sharp. So that's what sharpen doing. And once again, we can choose to work with our Apple Pencil. The next one is bloom. I personally love the bloom. So you see now I can add more sun. I can play around with my sliders. Like, for example, I can set the size at the maximum, transition at minimum, and burn at minimum. So I have this very beautiful soft light. Let's move, and here we can see we have a glitch. And we have a different options for glitch, like artifact, wave, see, wave, signal, it's like a lost signal from the TV set, diverge. And we also have some sliders for any of these options, so you can just play around and have the effect you want to. So with this mode you can have a pretty beautiful effects. You can create some abstract paintings, so please take a look. You can also, as with other tools, select to work with your Apple Pencil. The next one is halftone, and we can see at the bottom we have a full color, screen print, and newspaper. Let's move the slider and take a look. You see these dots you can set on screen print or a newspaper. You can also play with your Apple Pencil. Let's say, for example, that you want to create your characters' shadows with this tool. So you can just choose Apple Pencil and create them. But let's move. So the next one is chromatic aberration, and let's take a look. So at the top we can also choose to work with the layer or with the Apple Pencil. And at the bottom we have options we have perspective and displays. So let's take a look on perspective. Let's move our slider. We have a slider at the top, so we can move it. Just tap on the screen and slide to the left or to the right. And so you can see how it works, and we can set the transition, and we can choose fall off. So yeah, and now let's take a look on displays. Oh wow, great. You can choose here blur and transparency. We can move around and see what happens. Oh wow, so many beautiful effects. So the last two are liquify and clone. So let's take a look on liquify first. Here we can see that we have a lot of options at the bottom. So we have push, twirl right, twirl left, pinch, expand, crystals, edge, reconstruct, and then like a little bit transparent, adjust, and reset. So if we tap on all of them, we can see that they have similar settings. So we can change the size. You see it appears as a rounded brush. We can change the pressure, and we can see the transparency of this brush, like the opacity. And we can choose the distortion and momentum. Oh, so let's take a look. Let's zoom our image and let's try to apply it. Whoa, you see how we can move our image. So let's change the size of our brush to the little one, and you see, whoa, so beautiful. So if we set the pressure at the maximum, you see that we can move it easier. And if we set the pressure at the 12% or 10, we can see it moves slower. So distortion, let's set the pressure a little bit higher. Distortion, let's take a look. Once again, you see that if we set it at 9%, it push like more rounded, like with more rounded movements. And if we set distortion at the maximum, you see it moves my area like with more distraction. So momentum, and let's take a look on the momentum. Momentum keeps our liquefy effect continuing after we lift off the canvas. So let's take a look. Let's set it at 1% and let's set it at maximum. You see little changes. You see the changes. Let's take a look on twirl right. So let's set our size for 40%, I guess, and distortion at 1%. You see how it moves to the center of the circle. But if we set distortion at maximum, you see how now it moves like chaotically. Whoa, so beautiful effects. So twirl left acts similar, but to the left. And let's go to the pinch. Do you see what happens? Whoa. So let's set the distortion as well. Whoa. And the pressure, wow. It looks like a canvas a little bit hungry and it wants to eat this illustration. So let's take a look on the expand. It works on the opposite way. So let's take a look. Yep. And crystals. Let's take a look on the crystals. So let's set the size and distortion and the pressure. And let's apply it. Whoa, you see it looks like, it works like a tie-dye effect. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. By the way, you can undo your moves and redo as well. So don't be worried. You don't need to go out from this tool to undo and redo your movements. Let's take a look on the edge. So at the edge mode, you cannot choose the distortion. Oh, beautiful effect. And you can choose reconstruct. So it works like eraser for this tool. And you can also adjust. So for example, let's make a move. And you can adjust, and you can see that we can change the amount of the adjustment. And we can reset. So the last one is clone, and let's choose it. You see now we have no sliders, but our brush became blue. So that's because we can choose the brush we want to work with. So for example, let's choose some hard brush. So now when I tap on the screen, I have the clone of the area where my circle is. So it is very nice tool. For example, let's say that you need some details to be cloned, and you can definitely use this one. And let's say that maybe you would like to edit some photo, and you can choose this tool to edit them, so you can remove some imperfections. And that's it. That's all about the adjustments. Thank you so much that you listened, and let's move. Hi guys, hope you're all doing great and welcome to our next series of videos where we will talk about the basics of art. We will talk about the tone, we will talk about the shape, the lines, we will talk about the perspective, we will talk about the composition and color theories. We will talk about how to show volume on a plane. These lessons and knowledge may seem a little bit boring from the first sight, maybe not interesting, but trust me, it's all really important. And we will have exercises and practice, so it will be actionable and interesting. I will even give you some exercises, or you may say as a homework, like to develop your knowledge from the lessons. The thing is that artists from all of the time, like artists from the past, the greatest artists, they always looked for a path of least resistance. They searched for some tools, they invented tools, they always tried to apply less effort. When I say to apply less effort, I mean that in the physical way, because art is all about thinking. It's all about how we think of the stuff, how we think about, for example, a cup. What is this cup? This cup is just a flat image, or this cup is like a cylinder with a handler. So basics are all about how to make your work more effective. It's about how to understand the shape, how to make it easier for you to draw later. And I'm so happy and grateful that we can talk about these basics, that we have this time, so later you will have the best results from this course. Because, at the very beginning, I did it myself as well. We all try to start our drawings from the details. And it is so much harder, because when you start from the details, you have to keep in mind so many things. You have to keep in mind where your accents will be. You should think about other details that will appear on your canvas. And when you start from the basics, like with steps, with overall tone and color palette, it makes your work much easier. So let's say that, for example, you would like to create a portrait, and at first thing you made is an eye, but you have another one, and you have lips, and you have a nose, and you have a hair, like you have a face, and you cannot create a portrait like with one eye. And yeah, in traditional painting we are limited by our, for example, paper or our canvas, and why not to just crop and move our eye all around the canvas on Procreate? Well, you remember that we talked about how transform tool affects on pixels. So you can create a beautiful one eye, but when you transform it, you will lose the quality of this eye. So it will be just sad. And if you, for example, created a big one, and once again you want to resize it, or you want to resize your canvas, you can lose the number of the layers. So it's not working that way, and these basics are crucial both for traditional and digital art. And for this course I have my goals as well. I really want to give you as much knowledge as I can, and I want you to have the best experience during this course. So let's move and let's talk about the basics. Hi guys! So in this video we will talk about the elements of art. We will take a closer look on what are they and how can we apply and work with them. So these 7 elements are line, color, value, shape, form, space, and texture. So let's take a closer look on each of them. So first of all, let's talk about a line. Line is an identifiable path created by a point moving in space. So a line, in a contrast to closed and static dots, is an image of movement. In this sense, it is the opposite of a point, but also its product. After all, a line is a trace of the movement of a point. So lines are dynamic. Due to changes in its thickness, the lines creates undulating movements of the plane on which it's drawn. Line has an emotional impact. Lines can be combined with other lines to create textures and shapes. They lead your eye around the composition and can communicate information through their character and direction. So, for example, horizontal lines are about calm and peace. Let's create one. So you see, they are just peaceful and simple. It's like a calm sea. And on the other hand, when we create a vertical lines, it's like about the air, it's about the height. And then let's create diagonal lines. And you see they're about the movement. It's about they acting like, for example, a running river. And if we make them even a little bit curvy, you see that we have even more movement. So the next two will be shapes and forms. And the easiest way to understand it is about shapes. They exist in 2 dimensions, where on the other hand forms exist in 3 dimensions: height, width, and depth. So in this case, the basic shapes are the square, the circle, and triangle. Other types of shapes can also be viewed as combinations or variations of these. And basic forms are spheres, cubes, cylinders, and pyramids. So both shapes and forms can be, like we said, geometric and organic. So geometric forms we can define, but organic forms we cannot. They are abstract. It's like flower petals or leaves or bubbles or even maybe snowflakes and etc. The next one is space, and space is an area where we create our works. It can be positive or negative, where positive space is an area that occupied by an object or form, and negative space is the area like through and around or within objects. It's about our future background, foreground, and middle ground. So we know what color is, but let's talk about the value. And I will sometimes call it tone, so it is the same thing, value and tone. It's all about the lightness or darkness of the color. So the lightest value will be white and the darkest one will be black. So the last one is texture, and texture is about how we feel the object, how if we, for example, touch it, is it soft, is it cold, is it hard, or is it consisted from needles. It's especially important for illustrations where we communicate with our viewer by texture and shapes and colors. Now let's go to our first exercise. For this exercise you can use, for example, your brush from the calligraphy set, and you can use script in like dark gray color, or maybe even you can use black color. And I want you to create, like, for example, 9 squares. You can use your Procreate grid if you want them to be equal. And So this first exercise is about our imagination and our feelings about some objects. So for example, let's create some liquid. So how we can imagine and show liquid using lines and shapes. So for example, when I think about the liquid, I want to create something like this. You see, it's like these lines are flow down and yeah, fill all of the square. So here you can see my liquid, my imagine of the liquid. It's like these lines, these shapes flow down. The next one will be, let's create furry texture. And so when I think about something furry, I think about some lines like this. But now when I create them, I see that it may be like more curly. So feel free to delete your lines and maybe, yeah, these are better. And you can even use some volume. So feel free to have some shades. All you need to do at this exercise is to try to feel and think in a visual way about some textures or about some natural phenomena, like let's create rain. So when you think about the rain, what you can create? Well, it's pretty, I think, simple, but try to go beyond your imagination. So yeah, I think my rain looks like this. And for example, if we want to create snowflakes, how would these snowflakes look like comparing to the rain? So let's create. I think that snowflakes can look like something like this, or I can use some forms to show them. So you see, it seems like a pretty simple task, but try to compare the opposite things, like as you see, rain and snow, like hot and cold, like something soft and something more sharp. How you, for example, can show sand, something spicy. So yes, these exercises are very important for you to understand how you can show something depending on your feelings. But now let's move and let's create a field full of shapes, but with one class. All of these shapes should be in different shapes, should have different shapes depending on their character. So let's take a look. Let's say, for example, that we have one angry sheep, one curly sheep, one sheep that is a little bit cold, the one that flows down, and let's create one on which the wind blows. I will attach my illustration of the sheep if you need it at your first steps for now. But our task is about to work with her body. So you can left the head the same and the legs and the tail, but work with the body. So let's, for example, create our angry. And remember, it's not about the illustration, it's a practice, it's an exercise. So your lines don't have to be ideal, we're just practicing. So let's practice. So let's say that I want to show my shape as a curly one. I think that it is pretty simple, yeah? Using our previous exercise, we can just create our sheep's body from these little curly lines, and you see that we now have a beautiful curly sheep. But now let's say that we want to create our angry sheep. So let's take a look what we can use. We can use these sharp forms, and so our sheep now looks like maybe it's even furious. But now let's create a ship that, for example, flows down. So how will it look like? So in my opinion, I think it will be something like this. So you see that here in this exercise we use only some basic lines and shapes, but we already have some impressions. So yeah, now I have a liquid. Oh, I even can make like it flows on the grass around it. Let's, for example, create a grass. So how will grass look? It can look something like this. And let's make the one on which wind blows. So this one is a little tricky because you see that now I have a body with these beautiful lines, but if I set my legs like this, it seems like it's not the wind, but my ship is running, you know? So maybe I should use another one and it will be a little better. Maybe a wavy one, so it looks more calm. Yeah, I think that's better. So you see that I didn't have to move my legs or or the head of the ship to create some impressions. It's all about the texture within the ship. So that's all for this lesson, and I hope you liked it. And you can always return to this exercise at your leisure and try to convey other sensations with the line and shapes, like for example envy and maybe porosity and etc. And I will see you in the next video. Hi guys, so in this video we will talk about the volume and about the tone. We will talk about how to create this great volume. So let's go to our Procreate and let's tap on plus icon and create a canvas. I will choose a default square canvas. Let's set the background color with, let's fill it with like a light gray. And yeah, we have one layer and we will work on this layer for now. Let's choose our brush. Let's set monoline and let's choose like a gray color and let's choose the size. Okay. So for now we will create a sphere. So we need first to create a simple shape, and a simple shape for sphere is circle. So let's create one. Just tap on your screen and create a circle, and then hold your Apple Pencil and you see that it appears as a ellipse. And if I tap another finger on my screen, you see that I have a perfect circle. I even can tap on edit shape and I can move my circle all around, and I can choose ellipse option, and I can, you see, now have ellipse once again. I'm pretty satisfied with the size of my circle for now. So yeah, let's tap on anywhere out of the canvas and let's create a horizontal line. It will be, also you should tap and hold on the screen, and if you hold with your finger it will appear as a straight horizontal line. So this will be our like ground plane and our background. So now we have a circle and we have a background and a plane. So let's choose where our light will go from. I prefer to choose my light from the left top corner. So here it goes. And I will show you with the arrows how it works. You see that my light will go from here to here. And this point where my arrow touches my circle, here will be our highlight. So it will be the most saturated area of our future sphere. And if our light goes from this side, then it means that on the opposite one we will have a shadow. So let's create our shadow. You see that I created as ellipse as well. That's because our shadow like hugs our sphere. So that's why it is ellipse. Cannot be flat because we create a form. It has 3 dimensions. It has width, height, and depth. So that's why we should always think like in 3D. And that's the main difference between painting, drawing, and, for example, photography. But photographers use these rules sometimes as well. So they create their photographs more like in more perspective. So they choose what object to set like more contrast one, and in that case they create a perspective, they create a space. So okay, we have our shadow, our base shadow or core shadow. I prefer to say and to call it a core shadow, but we also have like a cast shadow. So on the ground, on our plate, we will have our core shadow, and it should also be as ellipse. So let me choose position of it. So I will choose a little one and I will edit it and move it all around. So you see that Procreate helps us on every step. So yeah, now what we see, we have our base shadow, we have our cast shadow, we have a highlight, and we have a like base. But also we this base, it is right here. So our base consists from highlight, light, and the base color. So every object has some color, and our sphere as well. So it will be like, it will be white, and it will have a matte texture, I think. Let's say that, for example, it consists from plaster. Yeah, so once again, we have our highlight, we have base color and light on the left, and on the right we have our base shadow and cast shadow. But also we need to have a reflection, so it will be, it's a rule. Every object takes reflections from other objects. So for example, on our canvas, our plane will reflect on our sphere, and our sphere will reflect on our plane. If we had here an apple or an orange, this orange will reflect our sphere as well, but with color. But now we will draw in black and white, so we don't need any other distortions. But we will have our reflection, and our reflection will go from here and here and here, and it will appear like here. It will also follow the shape of our sphere, but let me just set it like this. So yeah, now it seems like it looks a little bit messy because of all of these lines and no values at all. So let's create values. We should go to new layer. Let's create a new layer, and let's move our first layer at the top of the second layer, and let's work with the second layer. So let's now choose airbrush instead, and let's choose hard airbrush. So now we need to create a base color of our of our sphere. So yeah, let's create it. Let's set it as a little bit lighter than our background color, so it will be easier to see the changes. And let's just fill our sphere with the color. It can be a little bit messy for now. I just want to show you how the volume works. You can definitely tap the pause and create the ideal lines and fill your sphere without going out of the boundaries of our strokes. But I just want to show you how it all works. So the next move will be, I want to add background and I want to add also plain color, so I will create one more layer and I will move it at the bottom. So now let's say that our background will be like dark middle, like dark gray, and let's fill it with the color. And let's say that our plane will be like a lighter gray, but you can use the sliders. But it could be, let's say that our plane color will be a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit more, but not white, and let's not make it as light as our sphere, so we can have the best result. And once again, let's go up and let's create one more layer. Let's set it under our circle and let's fill our cast shadow with some gray. So here I should tell you that our cast shadow and our shadow should be in different values. That's because we have our sphere, right? And this sphere is situated on a plane, right? So the place where our sphere meets our plane is the darkest point. It is the darkest point of our drawing for today. So, and our base core shadow couldn't be as dark as our cast shadow because of the environment, because of the reflections, so it just cannot be so. So let's create our cast shadow. Let's create it like a really dark gray. And this dark gray, you see, it is different gray from the background. Yep, nice. And let's go back to the layer with our base color and let's swipe it to the left, to the right, from the left to the right. And here you see we are in alpha lock mode, and let's create our base shadow. So let's set a little bit lighter color, but you should remember that your background color should be differ as well. So you see now, yeah, they are different, but I can make my background color a little bit lighter. I guess it will work good for my sphere. So yeah, let's go back to the background. Let's choose our background color and let's set it a little bit lighter. Yeah, beautiful, much better. And now let's go back to our base, and now let's create a reflection. So reflection is in the shadow. Reflection shouldn't and reflection cannot be as saturated, as bright as our base color, as our light. Reflection shouldn't and cannot be as bright as our light. So it always in the shadow, and because it's in the shadow, it cannot just be as bright as the light. So I know that it seems sometimes we have like a sphere, and we can have some white object on the white table, for example, and we can also have like a light source, and it seems like all of these whites are a little bit close one to another. All of these values, it seems like our reflection is so bright, but it is not. And if you for example squint your eyes, it is a very good exercise. Just squint your eyes, look at the object, and you will see everything around appears like a little bit blurry, but in this like mode you can see your objects in general. So if we look at the object with eyes that we squint, we can see that our shadow and our reflection, they are pretty like close one to another. Their values are close one to another. So use this exercise like anytime you need to. I personally use it like a lot, and my eyes like sometimes do it like automatically, but it helps me to draw better, so I'm not really I don't really mind. So let's go back, and yeah, we should choose our reflection. So it's imagined sphere, so I will just choose some value that is a little lighter than my shadow, and that is darker than my background color. And yeah, with alpha lock I can fill it with color. Okay, so now we have our reflection, we have our core shadow, we have our cast shadow, we have our base color, but we don't have like the difference between light and highlight. So for this exercise we can definitely use white as a highlight, but most of the time it's not working like this. But in the real life we don't have like a really whites. We have some shades, but not totally white. So yeah. And yeah, I set my highlight as white, and now what I can do, I can, to show you some magic, let's turn our sketch off. Oh, so beautiful. Let's turn our alpha lock a little bit and fix a little our sphere so it appear more like rounded from here. Oh my god, so beautiful, so beautiful. Okay, so let's fix it a little. Well, not that bad. Okay, maybe here as well. We could just make it a little bit smaller, but I don't want to, so one more move and we can continue. So yeah, now we see some magic here. We see that we have a highlight, we see a base color, we see a shadow, we can see we see shadows, we see reflection. Let's add like a mid-tone. Mid-tone is the value that is situated between our, let's set up for lock once again. Let's it's a value that is situated between the shadow and light, and also we can have it like here and here, because our light goes like here. So you see that if we set more mid-tones, we can see more value even here. So yeah, that's what realistic painting and drawing about. If you would like to have like very realistic drawings or paintings, you should learn how to see more values. But you should also remember that you should see as many values as you can, but you should remember that all of these values should be in the general like light or in the general shadow, and it cannot be in any other way, because if you will like mess with them and you, for example, if you will create, let's say, the like let's take a tone from our reflection and let's set it on the light, you see that it not works, it not works because this value is too dark for the light. Let's set it back, and so with the light values, so we cannot place them we cannot just place them in the shadow, and we cannot think that it will work. No, it will not. Really good and professional drawings are all about the ability to look on the overall picture, to look on the shadows and lights in general, to look on the colors in general as well. But we will talk about this later. So now from here, all you need to do, you need to take your smudge tool and to blend your areas. Be patient, and you see that I try to follow the shape of the sphere. Just move your brush according to the shape that if you, for example, hold this sphere. So here we can blend a little bit faster. So yeah, in general, you already see the difference. You see that we really have some volume. And let's blend here as well. If you want, we can choose our soft brush and let's, for example, choose a color of our plane and let's set it a little bit darker, and we can make our reflection a little bit lighter. But once again, squint your eyes and take a look. If it's too bright, just make it once again and a little bit darker. So let's also take our soft brush and also let's set the white. Let's choose the white color and let's create our highlight like this, or maybe better like this. So now you can see that we already have some volume with this on this shape, and for our cast shadow we should have gradient as well. So let's go to the cast shadow, let's also choose alpha lock and let's choose a little, and let's choose a really dark gray, and let's apply it to the place where our shadow meets our sphere and where also our shadow meets the light that falls on the plane. And also let's go to the plane as well. So if our light goes from the top left corner, let's choose the color of our plane and let's, for example, make it a little bit darker, and let's just blur it from the opposite corner. Maybe we can make it even darker, and yep, you see that we have a smooth gradient. And we can do the same for our background, but let's create a little bit lighter corner at the corner where our light appears. So let's set a little bit lighter brush brush, and yeah. So now we have like some pretty nice values. And yeah, for our cast shadow, let's set alpha lock off, and let's go to the adjustments, and let's choose the Gaussian blur, and let's blur it. You see how it blurs very gentle. And let's go back, and let's choose our soft brush once again, and let's choose our dark color, and let's go to the place where our cast shadow meets the plane and the sphere, and let's make this place a little bit darker and a little bit sharper. So yep, like this, maybe even a little bit darker. So in that case we will have like a little perspective as well. So you see that our shadow looks pretty nice. And so we can play all around with this sphere, and we can add more volume, we can add more values, but I'm not satisfied about this form, so I want it to be like a square. And what can I do to make this sphere edges, boundaries more round? I can go to the mask. So let's create a mask. Let's tap and create mask. Let's select a hard airbrush, and let's just create a circle. Don't forget to tap your finger, and one more time. Let's create a circle. Yep, and let's go to the edit shape, and let's choose where it will be. So here we go, we have a beautiful rounded circle. And let's go to our layers one more time. Let's delete our alpha lock, not delete, but swipe it to from the left to the right. And let's go to the Gaussian blur, and let's set it like a little, so you see that all the content of my layer is a little bit more blurred. Okay, so here we are, we have a pretty nice circle, and now we have a beautiful sphere. Now let's say that we are not satisfied as well, because our boundaries are too sharp. So we can just go back to the layers, and we can merge our layers, and here we are, it appears as one. And now we can also go to the adjustments and go to the Gaussian blur, and we can just make it like too blurry, but for 2%. I think it looks nice. And now we have our beautiful boundaries with a little bit blur, and we can also go to the background layer, and we can choose our color of the background. With our hard airbrush, we can draw a line. We can tap on our screen to make it beautifully straight, and we can go and use our smudge tool. So you see that it's all disappears. So yeah, you can continue to play with the volume. We can add more values on the light, because this light is too light, as I think. But you now understand what I was talking about. You now understand how volume works and what we need for the volume. So once again, we need to create our body. Yeah, so we have one value of the body. We have to create light and highlight. We should create our basic shadow, and we should create our cast shadow. And also we need reflection. So light, highlight, body or midtones, base shadow, cast shadow, reflection. So 6 points to create a great value. Also, you need to work with your background. You need to work with this space where your object is. Yeah, and that's all. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next videos. Hi guys! So in this video we will talk about the colors, we will talk about the color schemes, we will talk about some theories, I will tell you about how it all were invented, and also we will apply some of this knowledge in today's lesson. So let's go. So the first thing that we need to know that there are only 3 colors in painting, in digital painting, and there are only 3 colors that is impossible to get by mixing others. So these colors are yellow, red, and blue, and we know them as primary colors. So they form the middle, the basis of the color wheel. And if we mix 2 primary colors, then we can have the secondary color, and secondary colors are orange, green, and purple. So for example, if we mix red and blue, we will have purple. If we mix red and yellow, we will have orange, and finally if we mix blue and yellow, we will have green. So the specific shade of the complementary secondary color depends on what kind of yellow, blue, and red you use and in what proportions you mix them. So if we mix primary and secondary color, we will get tertiary color. So we also cannot get black and white colors by mixing, but they belong to the group of monochrome colors and do not participate in mixing chromatic colors as usual. I mean, in usual color schemes. Also, we can divide colors on warm and cold ones. So each color leans leans, yes, towards one or the other. This is not always evident. Sometimes the warmth or coldness of the color is barely distinguishable, but cold must be distinguished from warm, because when mixed, these properties have a serious impact on the result. And I know that it sounds like it's more like for traditional painting, but we can apply this knowledge for the digital painting as well. So we can, for example, mix with our smudge tool some colors. So keep in mind we can also use this knowledge. So among the primary colors, yellow and red are warm and blue is cool. In addition, if you make comparisons among species of the same color, you will find that among reds, yellows, and blues, there are warmer and colder shades, but this is only relevant in terms of comparison. So yellow will never be truly cold, but only colder than another yellow, and otherwise it is no longer yellow, but some other color. And if you move along the color wheel, it becomes clear that each color has a relative temperature. When moving from the cold pole to the warm temperature, the color increases, and when moving in the opposite direction from warm to cold, this temperature falls. So let's play with our color wheel and we'll see it. So this difference is really crucial because it helps us to correctly convey the time of day, for example, a sunny day or like twilight, and the right mood and atmosphere, to create the right mood and atmosphere, and maybe create some joyful scheme or sad one. In addition, it will help the artist to correctly play on the contrast of warm and cold, which also has a very impressive effect if color is used correctly. So let's talk like a little deeper. So color is the property of material objects to emit and reflect light waves of a certain part of the spectrum. In a broad sense, color means a complex set of gradations, interactions, variability, or of tones and shades. So, visible to a human eye, color appears under the influence of an objective physical phenomenon. Light, on the other hand, as a result of electromagnetic radiation of various frequencies on the human visual apparatus. And in addition to these factors, visual experience and memory, psychological and physiological characteristics influence the emergence of a person's color sensation. So, color is experienced not only visually but also psychologically and symbolically, which is why it is studied as the most complex phenomenon by many specialists. Physics study light waves, measure and classify colors. Chemists create new pigments for paints. Physiologists study the effect of color on the eyes and brain, and psychologists study the effect of color on the human side. So, color affect a person in different ways. For example, warm colors, red, orange, yellow, induce action. And sometimes they may seem annoying. And cool colors like purple, blue, cyan, blue-green muffle irritation. Pastel colors have a softening and restraining effect. There are colors that affect the perception of space, like for example, warm ones are perceived closer to us, cold ones on the contrary amplifies the distance, and we will talk about these a little bit more when we will create the landscapes. So also, for example, red can show passion and love or anger and maybe danger, where on the other hand, blue can be identified as trust and security, and purple can show royalty. And for example, like the Renaissance, it was a very expensive pigment, and it was used for to paint some royalties. So let's take a quick look on the history of color theories. So in 1676, Isaac Newton used a dihedral prism to decompose white sunlight into the color spectrum and noticed that it contained all colors except purple. The spectrum served as the basis for the systematization of colors in the form of a color wheel in which Newton identified 7 sectors like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So 140 years after Newton, the color wheel was improved by Johann Goethe, who added purple, obtained by mixing purple and red. In addition, Goethe was the first to think about the fact that color has an effect on the human psyche. And in his scientific work teaching about color, he was the first to discover the phenomenon of sensual moral action of color. And if you want, you can find it and you can read it. But today, the color wheel of Johannes Itten, a Swiss artist, art theorist, and teacher, is widely used in arts. And we already know about it. It's what I told you at the beginning, but let's repeat. His 12-part color wheel shows the world's most common arrangement of colors, so their interaction with each other. Itten distinguished primary colors, it's red, yellow, and blue, and second-order colors, so secondary colors, green, purple, and orange, which are obtained by mixing a pair of primary colors, and third-order colors, which are obtained by mixing a primary color with a second-order color. And for example, yellow mixed with green will be called light green by ordinary people. But in color science, it is called yellow-green. There are also color models, and color model is like an abstract model for describing how colors are represented as tables of numbers, and they are called color coordinates. Usually 3 or 4 values are used. The color model specifies the correspondence between colors perceived by a person and stored in memory, and colors generated on output devices. Such models are a means of a quantitative conceptual description of color and are used in computer programs and apps such as Procreate. So it's about RGB and CMYK. So we already talked about that if we need to print our images, we should choose CMYK. But let's talk about why. So the main difference between CMYK and RGB is that RGB model is direct or emitted colors, while the CMYK model is reflective colors. Therefore, electronic images are composed of shades created from the RGB model, and all print materials are surfaces that reflect light. Thus, the printed image is formed using the CMYK model. So, printers commonly use 4 inks, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, which form the basis of the CMYK. And in order to transfer a digital image to a material, it is crucial to transfer it from one color model to another, from RGB to CMYK. Otherwise, some shades may be distorted beyond recognition, and bright colors are likely will fade. It is also important to remember that the range of hues in the CMYK model is smaller than in the RGB. So, any images prepared for the layout require color correction before printing. So please keep in mind, if you want to print some posters, stickers, maybe some designs, you should create in CMYK color mode. And you also should keep in mind that you cannot change this setting. So if you want to create your image in CMYK, you should set it when you create your canvas. So when you create your new canvas, you should choose your color profile. But let's take a look and apply some color schemes. So the first one will be a monochrome color scheme. This scheme uses different variations in brightness and intensity of the same color. This scheme is simple and elegant, and its colors are light and soothing. Base colors can be combined with neutrals such as white, black, or gray, so to create contrast between the elements of the composition. So let's create one and let's see how it works on practice. So I will attach the file with these like bottles for you, so you can also play around and apply and try some of these schemes. So now let's work with monochrome. And yeah, so as we know, we should and can only work with one color and different shades. So let's just play. So here we can use like maybe this color, and here we can use this. So basically you see that I try to apply like the brightest colors only to the accents, so maybe for the label, yep, why not? And I can use a little bit darker color here and here. So basically you see the results already, and yeah, it really looks very calming, and it is very easy to work with this scheme. So yeah, so that's the result. It's our monochrome color scheme. So the next one will be analog color scheme, and this scheme uses colors that are next to each other on the color spectrum. This scheme is often used to create designs in also calm and relaxing colors. So usually one color is used as the dominant color and the other colors are secondary, and this scheme is similar to monochromatic but offers more shades. So let's take a look and work with one. I will work with green and yellow. So let's set our body as the green one. A little bit lighter, maybe even more. And here and here. And also here. Here a little bit lighter and warmer. Set like this and this. So as far as I see that this looks pretty nice as well. So my primary color will be in this work green, and the accent color, the secondary color, will be yellow. So you can see it already. So I can even create my accent more obvious. So yep, here we are. So this scheme is widespread in nature, and it is pleasing to the eye, bright and lively. They are pretty usually looks harmonical, natural, calm and relaxing. So feel free and play around with the different ones. Like for example, you can choose the range between yellow, cyan and blue. You can choose from purple to blue. You can choose from like a little bit orange, red, and then go from the magenta to purple one. Just try them out and play. So the next complementary color scheme, and complementary colors are those colors that are opposite each other in the color wheel. So for example, red and green. And such color combinations create a very high level of contrast. Therefore, you should be careful with such color combinations and rarely use them. So only when you need to highlight something very strongly. And for example, if you want to add some color to your text, at your designs, don't use this scheme because your colors will look like really messy and disturbing. So this scheme is not really easy, but we should try it. And let's select a dominant color and use the other color as an accent. So let's work, for example, with purple and yellow. So I think that I will use purple as the primary color. So yeah, let's go to the classic, and well, that's tricky. Okay, so maybe I will choose this one for the body of my bottle. This little bit lighter. I now see that my purple is really cold, and maybe it will be better if I choose warmer shade. So let's, for example, choose this one and this one, and here let's apply this, and even maybe darker shade of the purple. Yeah, why not? And here, let's say that I have a light on my bottle, so no, maybe even lighter. And for the portion, let's choose yellow, but let's choose like a little bit warmer yellow, and maybe a little bit brighter one. Oh wow, so bright, and the brightest once again on the label. And let's go back to our purple shades. Let's choose like really dark one for the label, and here as well, and here maybe once again little darker one. Oh, I pretty good remember all of these exercises at the academy, and college, and when I were at the art school. Now I see that well, it's not that bad, but maybe I can select more like grayish color for the position. Yeah, now I think that it looks better. Yeah, right. So let's keep it like this, and let's move to the other scheme. So the next one will be split complementary color scheme, and it's a kind of complementary scheme, one primary color plus two color adjacent to the complementary color of the primary color. So only colors to the right or left of the complementary colors to the complementary color used. And this provides high contrast, but it is not as irritating to the eyes as the usual complementary scheme. A split complementary color scheme is harder to balance than, say, a monochrome or an alec one. Usually one warm color and several cold ones are used. So let's try this one. Let's say that I want to work with this like navy blue as the body of my bottle. So let's set it all here, and maybe a little darker here, a little bit lighter here, and light here. And for example, I will choose so this one is also tricky. So you see, if we apply more colors, it becomes more difficult to work with them. But it's all about the practice, and I really think that you will do great. So, and let's, for example, make our potion as well with this orange one. Oh, so bright. You see, and let's set like maybe this green one also, you see it's a little bit colder. So yeah, I think that my potion is like, maybe let's try to create it green as well. So like maybe lighter, and here a little bit darker. No, it's not working. It was better, but maybe not as saturated. Maybe like this. Oh yeah, it look much more appropriate, I will say. So yes, that it's a split complementary scheme. So the next one will be triadic color scheme, and in this scheme 3 colors are used located at the same distance from each other on the color wheel. So this scheme allows you to create a high but at the same time harmonious and rich visual contrast. In the triadic scheme, the colors are much more balanced than in the complementary scheme, and let's say maybe even as a rule, 1 color out of 3 is chosen as the main color. So like for our bottle, it will be the base color. So the difference between this color scheme and the previous one is that at the previous one we work, like for example, with red, blue, green and yellow, green, and here we will work with red, yellow and blue. So the colors that are at the same distance. So yeah, let's for example create the red one as our base, as our, oh maybe it is too straighted. It looks better. And a little bit more saturated for the light. Okay, the next one we will use a little. And now let's use yellow. Let's use yellow for from here, maybe here, and even we can use it for this detail. And we also have to work with blue. So let's try and work with it. You see, now I decided to work with more saturated colors, and if I choose here yellow, it will really look like an accent. So yep, you see, the thing that we most look on is our label. So that's our triadic color scheme, and let's move to the last one. So the last one will be a tetrad double complementary color scheme, and this scheme is the richest in the colors among all other color schemes, because as many as 4 colors are used located in complementary pairs. It is difficult, however, to achieve harmony in such a color scheme because too many colors, too many shades, and if you use all 4 colors in equal amounts, then the composition can easily turn out to be unbalanced. So that is why you need to choose one dominant color. And you know, this rule we can apply to all of our schemes. We always need to think about the accents and we will talk about it when we will talk about the composition. But now let's try this one. So I think that I will use like orange with a little bit red, magenta, cyan, and green yellow. But you can also choose, like, for example, red, purple, green, and yellow. You can use magenta, like a little bit purple, blue, and yellow, green, and orange. Or you can use purple, blue, yellow, orange, or blue, green, orange, red, and finally purple, cyan, orange, yellow, and orange. So let's try and let's take a look. Here you see that I already applied some my orange red color, but we also need to apply magenta, cyan, and green yellow. So let's add one more shade. Okay, and let's say that we want our position to be like magenta. Very tricky, very tricky. Oh no, I think that this one will, yep, this one looks better because it is a little bit warmer with and maybe even if I use even more, yeah, even more warm shade, it looks better with my orange red color because they both are warm colors. But we also need to use green and cyan. So let's choose this one for this object and so let's say that I want to use my yellow green for the label. Well, not that bad, and finally cyan will work as an accent. Yep, so here we are. So here some color schemes, and please feel free to work with them. Please feel free to try different color options, different color schemes, and use it as your like maybe a little maybe like a homework. Try, and you will by this increase your creativity, and it will be easier for you later to, for example, to fill your objects with color, to create your color palettes. Also, don't forget that we have color palettes and we can use the default ones and we can create ones from our today's knowledge, and then we can use them in other works. And as a little exercise, as a little more exercise, we can create oh no, not that. We can go to our previous, yep. So here you see that we have a grid. You have this grid from the lesson of the shapes and lines, and you can also apply our today's knowledge. You can try and just work with these simple little squares and try to find the harmonical palettes for yourself. So it is a very useful exercise. And that's all for today. I will see you in the next videos. So bye.
Hey there! Congratulations on completing this free 3-hour Procreate Basics course. It's a pretty great achievement and I hope that you have enjoyed it. You are now ready to get started on using it on your own. If you would like to uncover all the hidden tips and tricks of working with Procreate, head over to skillademia.com. The Beginner to Advanced course consists of many more hours of explanations, exercises, and projects which will turn you into a pro in no time. You'll be able to learn more about digital illustration and some animation in Procreate, as well as drawing, canvas settings, brushes, layers, masks, and textures. All of that while applying your knowledge on different projects and practicing your skills together with the instructor. If this sounds like the course for you, go check it out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.